If you've been wondering how to use Cursor AI to make mini-games inside of Hytopia, even with zero development experience, this video is for you. If you don't know me, my name is Ash, and on this channel I do my best to educate and inspire you to make cool stuff inside of Hytopia. And my goal with today's video is just to make that feel a lot more accessible and easy by teaching you everything I know about using Cursor AI to build these games. This video is going to focus on Cursor specifically, but there are some prerequisites that we need to get out of the way before this is going to work for you. So what you're going to want to do is have Bun installed and have the Hytopia SDK installed. And if you haven't done that yet, you can do it right from the Hytopia dev docs. So if you go to dev.hytopia.com, you click this initial setup link at the top, you'll see the instructions for installing Bun and then the instructions for installing the Hytopia SDK. If you are good with written instructions, you can just follow this right along. If you prefer a video, I do have a video on this setup, so you could also do that and then come back to this one when you're done with that. So assuming you have Bun and the SDK installed, the other thing that you're going to want to install is Cursor. You can find the link in the description of this video to Cursor, or if you click on this Create Your First Game link, the Cursor link is right there as well. When you go to the Cursor website, you'll see this download button in the top right hand corner, and you can download that, install it, and then you will have installed everything that you need to make a game inside of Hytopia. So assuming all of that is done, anytime you're going to make a new project in Hytopia, you're going to need a new folder to hold all of your folders and files related to your game code. So we're going to go ahead and make a new folder right now as an example. So I'm going to go to my file explorer, go to where I keep my Hytopia games, and I'm going to make a new folder. Obviously, you'll have an idea for your game in mind, so you'll call it whatever you want. In this example, let's just call it Shoot the Zombie. And now that we have our folder for our game, I'm going to go ahead and open Cursor. So when you open Cursor, you have something like this. You might have a thing in the middle that says like open a folder, or something that looks like this. No matter what, you can always go to File, Open Folder, and you're going to want to open the folder for the project that you just made. So I'm going to find my Shoot the Zombie game, select that, and then select folder. And you can see we've got it open in our environment. You can see over here on the left-hand side, you've got like the root folder showing, but there's nothing else on the screen yet. So I'm going to go to View, Appearance, and Secondary Sidebar. This is going to pull up the AI sidebar on the side. And then I'm going to also go to Terminal, New Terminal, and that's going to get me my terminal open at the bottom. So the first thing we're going to look at is some Cursor settings. It's always good to get these things right from the beginning. So in the top right hand corner, you can see this little cog wheel, and it says Open Cursor Settings when you hover on it. So I'm going to click that, and that's going to open up the settings. All right, so in this first general tab, the first thing we're going to look at is the Rules for AI section. These rules get shown to the AI on all chats and Control K sessions, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the important thing to note here is that every single project that you make in Cursor will use these rules. So if you're using Cursor for things other than the Hytopia SDK, like let's say you're making websites or apps, you want to make sure that the rules that you write here will apply to everything. For me, since I am only using Cursor right now for the SDK, I do have some SDK specific rules, but you're going to want to adapt this based on how you're using Cursor. But for me, mine says you are an expert in browser-based video game development using the Hytopia SDK, TypeScript, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Those are all the languages that Hytopia uses. You are assisting me, a beginner, because I'm a beginner, to create games that will be deployed on the Hytopia platform. And then I have a few never and always statements. I find that using words like never and always help the AI just to follow the instructions a little better. So my first one is never take extra steps beyond what is asked, follow my instructions exactly, always ask before deviating from the request. The reason I put this here is because the AI likes to be very helpful by suggesting code or implementing code beyond what you've asked for. It can be very, very frustrating because you always have to go back and like delete and reject the things that you didn't ask for. So that's why that's there. I also have one that says always make sure your code is simple, efficient, well commented. The comments should allow for any person to understand what's happening in the code. That's really helpful for me, especially as a beginner, just to understand like what the AI was thinking and why it did what it did. And then the third one is always verify that you are following the standards set in the Hytopia SDK developer docs. Do not make assumptions about available properties or methods. Verify they exist before suggesting them. This one's important because the AI likes to make a lot of assumptions about what is in the SDK without actually checking, and it will suggest a lot of incorrect things that you have to go back and troubleshoot later. So that could be really annoying. Moving on, we're going to look at this next section, project rules, in a minute, but I'm going to move on to the other tabs first, and then we'll come back to this. So moving on to the models tab. Here you can see a bunch of different AI models that you can check and uncheck based on what you want to use. It's important to understand that some of these are premium models and some of these are standard models. So I'm going to go to the Cursor website really fast. I'm going to go to my account just so that you can see what I mean. So over here on the right hand side, we've got this usage section, and this basically tells you how many fast requests you have left. So if you have a pro account, you get 500 fast requests per month for premium models, and then you have unlimited fast requests for standard models. And then you have unlimited slow requests for premium models as well. So you can hover over this question mark and see what is considered a premium model by Cursor. And that's GPT-4, GPT-4.0, and Claude 3.5 Sonnet. And then it also says Claude 3.5 Haiku is 1/3 of the premium request. So if you use that one, instead of using one request, it uses 1/3 of requests. So you can use 3 of those to equal 1 of any of the other ones. And then again, the standard model, GPT-4.0 Mini or Cursor Small, either of these has no limits to fast requests. So I definitely recommend the Pro subscription. It's like $20 a month. If you don't have that though, there is a free subscription. It's limited to 2,000 completions. You get some premium model access, but you only have 50 and they're all slow. So if making Hytopia games is something you want to do, I think it's definitely worth it to pay the $20 a month. But if you're just like playing around, trying to decide if this is what you want to do, you can definitely just use a free account for a couple weeks and see how you like it. So those are the models. So you can turn them on and off based on what you want to do. And also if you have other AI subscriptions, you can enter the API keys here and use those like that. All right, so moving on to the features tab, the thing I want to show you here is a little bit over halfway down. You've got this section called docs, and you can see that I've imported the Hytopia SDK developer docs and the Hytopia API reference. This is really important because this makes these things available to the AI to search at any point without you having to add additional links in. I'm going to show you how to add these in. So I'm just going to delete what I have, and I'm going to show you how to add a new one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to dev.hytopia.com, and I'm going to copy this link, and I'm going to go back into Cursor, click add new doc. I'm going to paste that in, hit enter, and then I'm going to name it. And I'm going to name it Hytopia SDK developer docs, and I'm going to hit confirm. And you might have seen it was yellow for a second and then it turned green. This means it's been fully indexed, and it'll also give you the date that it was last indexed. If you feel like it's been too long and you want to make sure it's re-indexed, you can always hit this refresh button and it will re-index it. And the other thing I'm going to add is the API reference. So back inside the dev website, you can go to this API reference tab. It's the third one. And then you can click this link to find the latest reference. And this is really important because everything in here will show you all of the available properties and methods and types and everything in the SDK. So for example, if I click on light, you can see all of the properties related to light and all the methods related to light. That way the AI knows to grab the correct things. Like I was talking before, it likes to make things up that don't exist. So this is how it knows like what exists. So I'm going to copy that link, and I'm going to again go add new doc. I'm going to paste it in, hit enter. And I'm going to again call it Hytopia SDK API reference, and I'm going to hit confirm. And it's also been indexed. Okay, so all of these settings that we've done so far are really great and helps the AI perform a little bit better. But what's really going to make the difference for you is this next tip that I'm going to show you, and that's the project rules. So we're going to go back to the general setting, and you can see under here this section that says project rules. And what project rules are is they are rules specific to your project that you write for the AI to follow just for this project. The great thing about it is they can be more detailed and they can reference other things. And you can also set keywords that the AI is going to use to know when to use the rules. So what I have done is I have created a rule set for Hytopia that the AI references based on different keywords to help it be a lot more accurate when it's writing the code. Without these rules, it gets things wrong a lot of the time. Using these rules, it's way, way better. In fact, earlier today I was working on a project and I did not have the rules in the folder yet. I forgot to put them in, and I'm working on them. Like, why is the AI getting everything wrong every single time? And then I finally realized I didn't have the rules in there, and I'd gotten so used to it performing well that it was kind of shocking when it was messing up so much. So with all that said, I have a link to those rules in the description. So go to that link, download the rules, and then when you get it, it's going to be in this zip folder. So we're going to right click this and we're going to extract all. Extract. And then inside you'll see this folder that says .cursor. This is the format that Cursor uses to hold these rules. So if you click inside of that, there's another folder that says rules. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open back up that folder that we made for our new game, the Shoot the Zombie folder. And I'm going to copy this folder of rules into this Shoot the Zombie root folder. And you can see that it showed up over here. So from this point on, every Hytopia game that you make, you're going to want to copy the rule set into your new game so that it has it to access for that project. And then also, if I close out of the cursor settings and I come back into the cursor settings, you'll notice that all those project rules are here now. All right, so let's close that and let's just dig a little bit deeper into these rules so you can have a better understanding of what they do. The first one is a 00 project overview. These numbers are just because I like to organize things in a certain way. You can always take them away. The numbers are not important. It's just how I like to organize things. But the very top one, 00 project overview, this is meant to just give the AI an idea of what your project is about. So in this one, what did I call this? Shoot the Zombie. So in this one, under this project overview, let's just say we are making a mini game in Hytopia where you shoot a zombie. You'd obviously want to be more detailed than this when you are making your actual game, but this is just an example. I also have information for it about the personality I want it to have. So I want it to proceed like a senior developer. I want it to teach me as if I'm a beginner. I want it to be neutral and professional. And then it's got a few other just basic rules. This section for file structure, this is where if you're working on a more complex game that had a lot of different folders that contain different portions of your code, you could define that file structure here so that the AI knows how you have the project structured. We're not going to do that in this one, so I'm just going to delete this, but that would be the place that you would put that if you had that. All right, so let's just look at one of these rules so you can get a better idea of what it does. So if we go to the lighting rules, for example, you can see at the top there's a description. It says Hytopia lighting rules, and then it's got a bunch of keywords here. These are the words that will trigger the AI to check this rule. So if I were to write a prompt with light or sun or flashlight, it'll automatically pick up this rule when I use those words. So if there were words missing that you wanted to add in, you can just add it there at the top. And then this globs thing is rules that you want it to use always for certain types of files. So I think for my global rules, for example, I have the glob here as TypeScript because the game code is in TypeScript and I want it to follow this rule every time it's working with the TypeScript file. So that's why this is being referenced here. And then also, if I go back to the lighting rule, I want to just point out a few different things. So right here it says, when following this rule, start every response with following Hytopia lighting rules. This is just a check in here so that you know if it actually picked up the rule or not. So if you're working on lighting and you don't see this message, it means it didn't find the rule for whatever reason it wasn't triggered, and you might want to reprompt it by specifically using the @ symbol to call this rule, and I'll show you that in a little bit. In addition, every single one of these extra rules starts with always fetch and consider the global rules. This is just so that it always picks up on the main rules in addition to these rules that are here. And then as you scroll through the lighting rule, you can see it's just got a lot of different types of lighting, some code examples for it to make sure it follows the right format. And most of the stuff was just like copied and pasted directly from the developer docs, but I found that doing this and adding it in here really explicitly like this helps it to perform so much better than trusting it to search the website and find the information that it needs like that. I have added in and troubleshooted and tested as many of these rules as I could. I'm sure I've missed stuff though. Like I'm sure if you try to do something, it might not function correctly. If you find that a rule is not functioning the way you want it to be functioning, just message me like on Discord or leave a message on the site and let me know the problem, and then I can continually refine these rules to help them be better for everyone. So I would appreciate feedback if you run into any problems, because I definitely want these to be like super helpful for everyone. All right, so with all of that done, You can see we have our root folder through the zombies, we have cursor rules, but we don't have a Hytopia project initialized yet. So I'm going to go down to my terminal and I'm going to say bunx Hytopia init. This is a command that's explained in the getting started guide and also in my first video, but this is just what you have to run to initialize the Hytopia project. So bunx Hytopia init, I'm going to hit enter and you can see it is downloading all of the necessary things from Hytopia. Okay, and it finished, and then it says you can start your development server with bun-watch index.ts. So I'm going to type that in as well, bun-watch index.ts, hit enter, and the server's running. And if you scroll up a little bit on this terminal, you can see it gives you the links after you start your development server. Play by opening your browser and visiting this link. So I'm going to copy that. I actually have this bookmarked on my computer. I'm going to go in, and we're in the server. I'm editing this video, I get to this point in the video and I'm watching it through and I realize that I never muted the music on the server once I loaded the server up. So for the rest of the video, like the Hytopia music is like playing in the background, it's kind of loud. And I'm not going to re-record this video again because I've already done it twice. My power went out one time, my son woke up in the middle of it another time. This is the video, it's done, I'm not doing it again. So what I have done is I have used AI to do a voice isolation thing, worked pretty good. The problem is a certain range of the pianos is like a very similar frequency range as a human voice. So every once in a while you are going to hear a piano note come through. I am sorry, it's ridiculous. You're not going crazy. It's just my way to salvage the video so that I don't have to redo it again. So back to the video. Okay, and with all of that done, if you don't know, the index.ts file, which is the one that we referenced in our command bun-watch index.ts, if you open that, that is our game code. This is why that server can run right now, is because we have all this code pre-populated when we initialize the new Hytopia project. All right, so that is all the setup. Now let's talk about how you can actually use Cursor to make Hytopia games. So you might remember at the beginning, we went to View, Appearance, Secondary Sidebar, and that gave us this sidebar over here. And you'll notice on the sidebar there are 3 tabs. The third one is Bug Finder. This is experimental. I've never used it, so I'm not going to talk about it. I'm sure it's useful in its own ways. And then we have the Chat and the Composer. So the Composer is where you're going to primarily be writing code, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. What I like to use the chat for is brainstorming with the AI. If I'm having a problem I'm trying to solve, or if I'm not quite sure the direction I want to go, I might brainstorm with the chat like that. And the other thing that I use it for is explaining things to me, because I am a beginner. I don't really know what I'm doing for the most part. So anytime I'm stuck or confused, I will literally just highlight a section of code and hit add to chat. And then I'll say, can you please explain this to me? And you can see it says, let me break down this important piece of code that handles what happens when a new player joins the game. And then it proceeds to explain all of these functions and properties and everything to you, which is great. So that's mainly what I use the chat for. I don't really do much coding in the chat. And the reason is that when you're coding in the chat, it can really only handle like one file at a time, versus the Composer, which can handle multiple files at a time. So for example, if you are working with a UI in Hytopia, you have your main server code on your index file, right? And then you also have an HTML file that handles your like UI code. So if you're implementing a UI element, the Composer can write code to both of those places at the same time, and it can even create the new HTML file for you if you don't have it yet. Whereas the chat, that would take like 3 or 4 prompts to get it all set up. It would like do one thing, and then it would say, you also have to do this. Would you like me to do that for you? And then you would say yes, and then it would keep going. So it takes a lot more prompting, and it takes a lot longer to like write code through the chat. So I definitely recommend Composer for actually writing the code. And so now that we have Composer open, let's just go over a few of the things here. On the bottom left, and this is the same for the chat, on the bottom left is where you select the AI model that you're using. Claude 3.5 is definitely the best one right now, in my opinion. But the other ones can work in different scenarios. Like you can use ChatGPT for just chatting and brainstorming things. GPT-4o Mini and Cursor Small actually work pretty well for a couple of things, which I can talk about in a minute, but that's how you change it. And then on the right hand side, there's two different modes. You've got normal mode and you have agent mode. The main differences between these two is normal mode will only use one fast request and agent mode will use two fast requests when you use it. But the agent mode will automatically fix any errors it encounters as it goes. So even though it uses twice as many fast requests to go through agent mode, it actually ends up being less in the long run because there's usually an error or two that'll pop up while it's working. And in normal mode, you're going to have to ask it to fix the error, and then it might not fix it, and then you're going to have to ask it to fix it again. So you might go 3 or 4 prompts in normal mode, when in agent mode, if you had done it in that mode, it would have just got it in just one prompt. So I definitely recommend agent mode as much as possible. A few other things to note is when working with the AI, you can use the @ symbol to reference other things. So if you wanted to @ the Hytopia SDK, for example, you would hit @ you'd go to docs, and you could reference either of those documents that we added at the beginning. You can also type like Hytopia and it would start to appear. Also, if you notice that for whatever reason the AI hasn't picked up on one of your rules, you could say @UI, and you can see the UI rules will pop up right there. Usually though, it should pick them up automatically, but again, you will know because it'll put that message at the beginning saying that it found the rule. And then you can also reference different files within this composer as well. You can either you can drag and drop files into it to reference them, or if you're inside of the file, you can copy it and you can press Control-I, and that will add that code block that you've got copied into the composer. All right, so what I'm going to do now is, since I called the game Shoot the Zombie, why don't we go ahead and have Cursor add a zombie into the game. So in the assets folder, if you don't know, if you expand it, these were downloaded from Hytopia when we did that BunX Hytopia init. You'll notice there are models, and there are all these different models that you can use by default. And in the NPCs, models, NPCs, you'll see the zombie model. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. So I'm going to say, please add in a zombie enemy using, and I'm going to let it know what the file path is. So I'm using assets/models/NPCs/zombie.gltf. And I'm going to hit submit. So right away you can see it says, let me help you add a zombie enemy. First, I'll fetch the relevant rules to ensure that we follow best practices. It automatically pulls up the entity rules, and then it says following Hytopia model entity and animation rules, and it's going to start coding for us. Okay, and you can see it added this code block down here. You can also see that as it was going, it found this error. So it made a mistake somewhere, and it tried to add a mask property right here, which I didn't ask for, which is kind of annoying. But it tried to add this mask property, realized that was a mistake, and pulled it back out without me having to do an extra prompt. So I was in agent mode. This cost me 2 fast requests, right? But in normal mode, I would have had to prompt it twice to get the same result. So in the end, it works out the same, but this is way easier. All right, so now that it's done, you can see over here it says accept the file or reject the file, but you actually don't have to do either, because when it works in agent mode, it actually does update the server. So I can go into my server now and I can see the zombie has already been spawned. So I can look and make sure it's how I want it before I even accept it. So looks good to me. We've got a zombie in the game, and now I can hit accept the file, and then those changes are saved. So let's do a couple other things. So let's say I want to be in first person view instead of third person view. I can just say, please change the camera to first person view, and hit submit. It's again going to look for the relevant rules. It found the Hytopia camera rules. It's following the camera rules, and it's going to change the camera mode. Okay, looks like I got it right. You can see the new camera rules right there. I'm gonna jump into the game, and you can see I am in first person mode now. So I'm gonna hit accept the file, That looks good to me. The next thing I want to do is I want to add a crosshair because obviously I'm in first person mode, but I can't see what I am aimed at. So I'm going to say, please add a simple crosshair to the UI. And I'm going to hit submit. All right, so it fetches the Hytopia UI general rules. It says it's following the rules. And it's searching my directory now to see if I have the necessary UI file. I actually don't have it. I haven't made it yet. So it's actually going to create the new file automatically for me. And because the rules tell it where to do it, it's going to put it in the correct place in this UI folder. It put the index.html file, which is exactly what you're supposed to do according to the rules. So that's been created. And now it's going to update this file to load that UI like it's supposed to. All right, and it looks like it has done everything it was supposed to do. If we jump into the game now, you can see we've got this little plus UI right in the center. All right, so we're in first person view. We have a nice little crosshair. We've got our zombie spawned, and now we need to be able to shoot it. So I'm gonna say, please make it to where when I left click the mouse, I shoot the zombie. Please add debugging so I can verify it works. What else do we want to do? Also add a chat message that says you shot the zombie when the player hits the zombie, and a message that says you missed when the player misses the zombie. So this is a really long prompt. It's a lot of steps, but let's just see how it does. Might get a few things wrong. All right, so it looks like it's fetched a couple rules. It fetched the Hytopia input rules and the Hytopia raycast rules, which are the correct rules for this. So because I said left click, that's why it chose the input rules. And because I said shoot, you can see that shoot is one of the keywords in the raycast rules. So it's how it found that one. All right, so let's read what it did. It says debug visualization. It enabled debug rendering for physics and for raycasting. We probably don't need it on for physics, so I'll turn that off. It said it added the shooting mechanics and it added the feedback messages. So it added a few pieces of code. This is the debugging that it added, so we're going to accept that. I'm just going to disable the rendering because I'm not really interested in that right now. And then down here added a whole chunk of code. You might remember in the rules I mentioned about leaving good comments. So you can actually read exactly what it did in the comments. So this first comment says handling the shooting mechanic. So this is a left click. It performs the raycast. The raycast is when, like, think of it as like a beam between one point and another. In this case, it's coming from our player to the wherever we're pointing. Hopefully the zombie if we're good. And then showing you what's going to happen when the zombie is hit. It says this chat manager, you shot the zombie. If it's not hit, it's going to say you missed. And then down here, it added another message that says left click to shoot the zombie. So I'm going to accept this file and let's just see if it works. So you can see when I'm clicking, this is the debug rendering. This line that you see, that's the raycast. So I'm going to click again. You can notice I'm not hitting the zombie, and in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see it says, you missed. But now I'm going to shoot the zombie, and hopefully it says you hit the zombie. And it does. It says you shot the zombie. So it got it perfectly right. First time. That's great. All right, so let's say I don't like the text color where it says you missed. So this would be an example of something that you would not want to waste the agent mode on because it's a super simple thing that can be done easily. So you could even do this type of thing in the chat or in normal mode of the composer. So to switch to normal mode, you're going to have to start a new one because you can't switch once you've started in one mode. So I'm going to hit this plus to start a new one. I'm going to switch to one of the standard models so I'm not wasting any of my fast requests on this. And I'm going to say, please change the text for the you missed chat message from red to white. I'm going to hit submit. And it's just going to change this one little line of code for me. This is obviously something you could do for yourself if you understand, how to use these codes to make color. But if you don't, you can get the AI to do it for you. I'm going to hit accept. And now when I miss, you can see it says you missed in white instead. And whenever you're done with the raycast debugging, when you've seen everything you need to see, you can just click before the line and hit 2 slashes, and that will comment it out, which means this is no longer part of the code. It's now a comment, but if you ever need to re-enable it, you would just delete those 2 slashes and then it would be active again. So I'm going to comment that back out and I'm going to hit save. And now when I go back in the game, you can see I don't have those lines anymore. You can see I can shoot the zombie and it says that I shot the zombie. So that is really everything that you need to know to get started using Cursor to make Hytopia games. There's obviously a lot to this. I definitely recommend a few things. The first would be, I mentioned this in a previous video, that take a Intro to JavaScript course. This will help you so much, especially when things go wrong. As great as it is for the AI to explain to you what's happening in the code, it makes so much more sense when you understand a few things about JavaScript, like why it's formatted this way, what a type is, what a class is, what these things are, like why these classes are being imported at the top. All those types of things are just helpful to know. It helps you prompt better with the AI. It helps you troubleshoot better. And it's also just helpful to know what types of things are possible so that your brain is kind of thinking about making games the proper way, if that makes sense. So definitely take some sort of Intro to JavaScript course. Also read through the dev docs. It might not be the most exciting read ever, but if you read through all of these things, like if you are adding lighting, it's helpful to just read through the lighting guide because it helps you understand how Hytopia functions. Obviously the AI can code the game for you, but understanding these things helps you to know what's possible, helps you to make more creative decisions, and just kind of know what your limitations are as well. So definitely read this. Also get used to referencing the API reference. When you're unsure of how to do something and the AI is having trouble as well. Like let's say you're working with the block type and for whatever reason you're having an issue. You can click on block type and you can see here exactly what types of things are available related to block type. And you can read all this stuff. You can click in deeper to understand even more about it. So don't be afraid of these things. It's a lot of information, but it's very well organized, and it's very, very helpful to get used to referencing these things when the AI isn't quite doing what you want it to do. And my very last tip is to join the developer Discord server. It's a great server. There's so many helpful people in there. I've learned a lot just from a few guys taking the time to just explain things to me that I wouldn't otherwise have understood. So join this if you're making games. It's a very welcoming community, very friendly and just collaborative. Everyone is willing to share knowledge. So if you are serious about making games in Hytopia, this is definitely the place to be. And as a final reminder, the reason why this text-to-game functionality works so well in this demo is because of these cursor rules. So go to the link in the description, download them, add them to every project. If you notice the rule isn't functioning properly for some reason, or if it gets something wrong, just ask the AI, how can I modify this rule to where you won't make that mistake again next time? And just message me and let me know what it got wrong and what it said we should do to fix it so that I can update the rules for everyone. So I hope this was very, very helpful. I know I was super excited to get this out. It took me a little longer than I wanted, but I wanted to make sure these rules were really good. Had a lot of issues like troubleshooting along the way, but we finally got it in the end. If you have any questions, reach out to me, join the dev Discord. I'm really excited to see what you guys make. And if you find this type of content helpful, definitely subscribe. I've got a lot more videos planned. I'm basically writing down all my issues as I'm having them as I'm going, so that once I figure out how to solve them, I can pass that knowledge on to you guys. I'm kind of learning along with you. So I'm going to share everything that I learn, every mistake that I figure out along the way to make sure that we all can, I guess, grow together as developers. I don't know. Anyways, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.